So first things first, you need to have an image in Photoshop. So you should have found something that is very high resolution, and it should be a portrait like what I'm looking at here. So mostly just face, okay? If your layers panel doesn't look like mine, and maybe you have multiple layers on there, the first thing you need to do is you need to flatten that. So go up to the top menu and find layer, and then go down to where it says flatten image. So do that first. Okay, once you've done that, then you're going to choose your quick selection tool. And I'm gonna come in here, and don't use a brush too much larger than what I'm using here. And you wanna start kind of in the middle of the image and just kind of work your way straight down. And then slowly kind of start expanding it. Now, if you're lucky and your background is simple, this should be a really quick thing. If it's not, your selection may bleed out into this background area. To fix that, you have to hold the Alt key down and subtract from your selection, okay? So I'm gonna go in here and see how it just kind of did that to me. All I need to do is hold that Alt key, and I can come back in and subtract from it, okay? Okay, so once I have it how I like it, then I'm gonna go back to my layers panel, and I'm gonna create a layer mask. So that's down here at the bottom. And what that did is it created a layer mask that basically separated the background from the photo. All right, now we gotta create a place to put this. So I'm gonna go to File and down to New. And once I'm in here, I'm gonna switch this to inches. I'm gonna make the width 12, the height 16, and the resolution 150. And I'm gonna change the background contents to black, but I'm gonna tell you right now, it's hit or miss, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit create and see it didn't work for me. So if it doesn't work for you, all you need to do is make sure you have black sitting here on top. Grab your paint bucket, the shortcut is the letter G, it may be hidden behind one of these other tools, and then just click. Okay, so super simple, just make sure that you have it set up like this. Let's move this out of the way. Okay, I'm gonna go back to my image. I am going to grab my move tool, and I am going to cut this out. So I'm gonna click and drag to that document I just created, so up here in that new tab until it opens. And I'm holding my mouse. I'm not gonna let go until I'm in the middle of it. Then I'm gonna let go there, and it should show up. It might be larger than necessary, but it might be really small like mine is here. To resize this, I'm going to press Control and the letter T. Okay, now I have this bounding box around it. All I'm gonna do is grab it from one of the 4 outer corners and basically just make it fill this space. Now, I'm actually gonna go further outside of this space. I'm gonna zoom out a little bit because I want it to really fill this space. Okay. What you don't want is a lot of empty black areas all around. Otherwise it won't look good. Okay, so really kind of make it full. Now, something to pay attention to, notice that my image looks really pixelated. That's just Photoshop's way of saving some memory while it's doing this. Once you hit the enter key, it should clean itself up. If it doesn't, that means you have a low resolution image, and that's a problem. Okay, we're ready to create our poster. All right, so next step is to basically, I'm gonna create a new layer. So down here at the bottom of your layers panel, hit that plus sign. Then I'm going to come over to my tools, and I'm gonna grab my rectangular marquee tool. And I am going to just create a box about half of this. I think you can eyeball it, okay? So there's that. And I'm gonna fill this space with black. So I'm gonna grab my paint bucket. I have black set up for it, and I'm just going to fill that space, okay? Then I'm going to deselect this selection. So Control and the letter D is a quick, easy way of doing that. Next step, I need my quote. So I'm gonna grab that type tool, and I'm going to create a text box for this entire area. So I'm just gonna kind of come up to the top left and drag down to the bottom right, and get it close, but it doesn't need to be absolutely perfect. Once you have it set up, you need to come up here and you need to choose your font. I would make the size large enough to fill the space. Depending on whether you are on the left or on the right will determine whether you are left aligned or right aligned. Make sure it aligns to the center of the image. And then lastly, you need to change the color, okay, just so you can see it. It's not going to necessarily be that color, but just make sure so you can see it. So I got white. You at this point would start typing in your quote, okay, and make sure you include who is saying it. So that should be the name of your musician should be at the end of this. Okay, so let's just say that this is my quote. What you can do is you can further adjust sizing here. Like let's say I want to go slightly bigger. I can do that. You also want to keep the leading super tight. So that's right here in your properties panel. All right. So I'm going to click on that, and anything below here will adjust it. So you're going to have to play around with this. A really low number is going to make it like just sit on top of each other. That's not great. But I believe anything above 48 should work depending on the actual font. Again, keep it tight, but you do want to space it enough so that it fills the area, okay? Okay, so for those of you that are wondering where the heck is my properties panel, if you can't find it, go to the window menu and find properties, and you can pop that open right there. Okay, so you've written your quote, everything's great. I'm gonna hit that check mark. Obviously that's not a quote, but we're gonna use it for this point. Okay, come over here to your layers panel. Find the control key on your keyboard and press and hold it down, and you're gonna click directly on that T. What it's gonna do is it's gonna create a selection around all those letters. Okay, I'm gonna turn off, use that little like layer visibility eyeball. I'm gonna click it so it's no longer there. I'm gonna click back on that layer where I had my black rectangle, and I'm simply gonna find the backspace button or the delete button on my keyboard, whichever one. And what that's going to do is it's going to basically cut out the black of that shape in the shape of those letters. All right, so last thing I need to do is deselect it. So that all looks great, except it's a little dark in certain areas. So if I wanna fix that, I'm gonna have to go find my image layer. Okay, so there it is right there for me. And make sure you're selected, so you have a mask and you also have the image. Make sure you're on the actual image. Go over here to your tools, find your dodge tool. The shortcut is the letter O. And I'm gonna come in here with a decent sized brush, and I'm just going to go over some of these areas, and I'm gonna lighten them up a little bit. If it's not going too fast, you can come in here and bump this exposure slider up just a hair, right? And it's not gonna lighten the, like if it's pure black, it's not gonna lighten it. But every time you click that mouse, it should lighten it a little bit more. Okay, so just do the best you can without making it look ridiculous. And you have to kind of stay on the side. If you go over here, it's gonna lighten that area too. So make sure you kind of stay where you wanna be. I could use a slightly larger mouse just to make this, or brush, just to make this a little quicker. Okay, anyways, that at this point, you would be finished. So you would want to make sure you save this as a JPEG, please. So File, Save As. Mine is obviously going to look much different than yours. Okay, but once you're in here, make sure you know where you're saving it to. Make sure you know what you're calling it, and the format, which again, mine is slightly different. God, this drives me crazy that it looks so different. You want to make sure you do JPEG. Okay, so that's it. It should be finished by today. Let me know if you have any questions.